July 1st, 2018, 9:20 a.m., a high-security prison south of Paris. The day is like any other at one of the largest, most modern, and most secure detention centers in France. This prison is like no other, with 17-meter walls topped with barbed wire. The building's armored doors and high-tech surveillance cameras ensure that every inch of this place is watched. The guards move like clockwork, ensuring that no one gets in or out. The courtyards are covered with anti-helicopter netting, and snipers are stationed on all 4 watchtowers, their eyes trained to see trouble. There is no room for error in a facility like this. In solitary confinement, cell 207, inmate number 0010189 waits calmly in his cell. He is the most heavily guarded prisoner in France, and his reputation is well earned. For years, this man, known to the authorities and the public alike as Redouane Faïd, has been involved in at least 30 robberies, many of them violent. In some cases, hostages were taken. In one robbery, a police officer was killed. Twice, he managed to slip away from the police right at the scene of the crime, each time leaving authorities in a state of humiliation. And 11 years ago, in 2013, he pulled off the unthinkable, a spectacular escape from another high-security prison. Yet today, at 9:20 a.m., he sits quietly, unbothered, waiting for his next move. In just moments, he will make his daring escape once again, and no one will see it coming. As 2 guards unlock his cell door, they pat him down, routine for any prisoner of his caliber. Despite his criminal history, the guards find him oddly charming. He cracks jokes with them and keeps them at ease, almost like he wants to be here. His charm makes him likable, but the guards have been warned not to let their guard down. He is guided down a corridor. Something doesn't feel right. His casual tone and easy smile make it hard to ignore what he could be plotting. 20 miles away, a man with a thick accent, 65-year-old flight instructor Stefan B., prepares for what seems like an ordinary day of lessons. He is about to meet 2 new students, a father, Frédéric, and his son, Julien. Frédéric and Julien had contacted Stefan a few weeks earlier, saying they wanted to learn how to fly. They seem like any other eager students, but something doesn't quite sit right with Stefan. For one, they've insisted that he be the one to fly the vintage Alette 2, rather than attempting it themselves. Stefan, with decades of experience, is one of the only people in the country who can fly this aircraft with ease. Stefan, noticing their odd behavior, wonders if something suspicious is going on. After all, they paid €500 up front. Back at the prison, Faïd is escorted to the visitors' block to be reunited with his older brother, whom he hasn't seen in years. Before Faïd enters, they make no mistake in searching him thoroughly, even though the man doesn't appear nervous. But something has changed in his behavior lately. He's been receiving more visits, and the messages he's been sending during his phone calls have become more cryptic, more deliberate. The authorities have noticed this shift, and they're concerned. A few days ago, a drone was spotted flying over the facility. But now, with Faïd's strange behavior and the drone appearing in the vicinity, suspicions are beginning to rise. Meanwhile, Stefan is busy preparing for his flight in the open field. The aircraft is ready for takeoff, and the father-son duo eagerly awaits the chance to climb aboard. During the flight, they suddenly ask for an unscheduled stop. They need to pee. Stefan agrees, and they disappear behind some trees, only to return moments later. They're armed with AK-47s. The men tell Stefan that they've been watching him for months. They know his family, they know his address, and they've made it clear if he doesn't follow their instructions, his loved ones will suffer. They order him to follow their lead, to fly exactly where they tell him. This is no longer a training session, it's a hostage situation. The tension in the cockpit thickens. Stefan realizes he's caught in something much bigger than he ever imagined, and Stefan has no choice but to comply. Born in 1978 in one of the toughest neighborhoods of Paris, Faïd's early years were anything but normal. He grew up in a family of Algerian immigrants, and his parents struggled to make ends meet. As Faïd grew older, his desire to escape poverty and social stigma turned into something darker. He found joy in films, especially crime films. French thrillers and American gangster movies became his obsession. He would watch them over and over again, memorizing scenes and repeating them to his family. By the time he was a teenager, Faïd was already deeply entrenched in the world of crime. He and his friends began robbing stores and stealing anything they could get their hands on, from car radios to stereos. But it wasn't just about the money. It was about the thrill, the power, and the escape from his reality. At 18, Fahid committed his first major crime, a bank robbery. Armed with a gun, he entered the bank and held a woman at gunpoint, demanding money. He spoke to her calmly, telling her a line straight out of his favorite crime movie. "Shut up. Do what I tell you. I've got nothing against you. I only want the money. Think of your children." The money allowed Fahid to buy better clothes, but more importantly, it marked the beginning of his criminal empire. This time, Fahid wanted to do something bigger. Fahid's favorite gangster film was Michael Mann's Heat, so he decided to orchestrate one of the most daring heists ever attempted, an armored truck robbery. On the morning of July 3, 1997, a 6-ton armored truck with 3 armed guards was passing an intersection when Fahid slammed his car right in its way. The armored truck came to a complete stop, and his crew quickly blocked it with 2 more cars, attached explosives, and began looting the truck. Gunfire erupted as police arrived, but Fahid and his crew managed to escape. Days later, German police raided a train heading to France and found Fahid on board. As he was being escorted off the train, he jumped over the tracks just before a train passed, blocking the officers off and spraining his ankle in the process. Fahid made his way to a local hotel. The staff just happened to be cleaning the rooms, and Fahid took his chance to hide in one of the rooms. But needing to make a call, he dared to leave to go to a nearby payphone, only to find 20 officers waiting for him. Fahid is at the hospital with 2 officers to have his ankle checked after the train station incident. He seems to be in serious pain, but that's just an act. Fahid snatched a gun from one officer and, using Krav Maga, a combat technique he learned in Israel, disarmed the second officer before escaping again. It doesn't take long for the authorities to track him down again. Fahid, despite his best efforts, is eventually caught and sentenced to 18 years in prison. After serving some time, Fahid is granted parole for good behavior. He claims to have reformed, to have turned over a new leaf. He even gets married and leaves his criminal past behind. But how much longer until he relapses to his old self? During his parole, Fahid meets Michael Mann, the director of the famous heist film Heat. Fahid gets to meet the man whose movie inspired his armored truck heist.
Moi, personnellement, je suis un ancien gangster. Malheureusement, je ne m'en vante pas. Je viens de faire une dizaine d'années de prison. J'ai attaqué des fourgons blindés, des bijouteries, des banques. Alors, ma question, en fait, elle est simple. C'est est-ce qu'il a conscience qu'il y ait des gangsters qui puissent s'inspirer de son cinéma? Parce que moi, ça m'est arrivé. Ma femme le déteste.
Fahid has been clean for too long, and as many suspected, Fahid is already back to committing crimes, and not robberies, but a crime that would shock the world. It's May 20th, 2010, and 2 officers, Aurélie Fouquet and Jean-François Leprêtre, are doing their routine patrol in the southeast of Paris. Aurélie is a new mother to a 14-month-old baby. It was just a regular day on the job when a report of a crash on the A4 occurred. As they approach the scene, 10 armed men emerge from a crashed white van and open fire. The group had planned to rob an armored truck, and in their assault, they fired 16 bullets through the officer's windshield, leading to the death of Aurélie Fouquet. The authorities question Fahid, but his alibi is too good. Their suspicion still lies with him, and a breakthrough occurs when the investigation uncovers damning footage, surveillance from the van before the incident, revealing Fahid's involvement. The police find images of him in the white van. The footage confirms what the authorities feared. Fahid is responsible. At 11:18 a.m., a prison officer glances outside and sees Stefan flying over the facility. It raises no immediate alarm. There are protocols in place for this. The sentinels on each watchtower receive an order to grab and arm themselves with a HKG-36 assault rifle, but the helicopter just keeps descending. The prison is lined with anti-helicopter netting. Flying in is supposed to be a suicide mission, but this isn't just any helicopter. It's a vintage model, small enough to slip through this specific gap in the netting. But Stefan never touches down because guards aren't allowed to fire at a flying aircraft due to the prison's protocols. Fayed must have known that Stefan is one of the only pilots in France skilled enough to hover steadily in such a tight space. In the heart of the prison's most secure area, the honor courtyard, Fayed is ready to make his move. As the helicopter hovers, one man stays behind, keeping a gun pressed to the pilot's head. The other leaps out and sets off 3 smoke grenades. Thick white smoke fills the yard, blinding the sentinel's line of sight. Then, masked and armed, he rushes toward a reinforced door and begins cutting through it with an angle grinder. Inside, Fayed waits as the door is breached. Beside him, his brother stands frozen, stunned. He had truly believed Redouane could change. Just 10 minutes after the helicopter's arrival, Fayed stepped into the prison courtyard and climbed into the helicopter. Inmates surrounded the bars of their cells, witnessing the unbelievable escape of Redouane Fayed. The chaos, the noise, the smoke, it felt like something straight out of a film. But this was real. The news spread quickly. Fayed had done the impossible. A helicopter escape from one of the most secure prisons in France. His face was plastered on every news channel. The authorities, now in full pursuit, declared him France's most wanted man. For 3 months, Fayed remained elusive, but he was caught by the authorities when they found him in his hometown. In 2020, Fayed faced trial, resulting in a projected earliest release date of 2060. By then, he'll be 88 years old.